Welcome to Real Estate and Business in Mexico. This is a space where we talk about business, we talk about investment, and decisions, but decisions that shape portfolios, but also lives. My name is Dolores Perez Islas. I am CEO of SIL Mexico, and I'm also your host here in this podcast. As you know, SIL Mexico is a real estate company that also we focus in development and investment. We structure business, we structure projects, especially projects with hospitality visions. But most of them projects that also enter to the market from international background, and we work with people, with clients, with investors that more than property owners, they design projects, they execute their projects combining financial, performance, and operation with excellent background. But most of that, social responsibility and long-term sustainability. Our approach is grounded in experience, discipline, and execution, and a deep understanding of local markets. Because for us, real estate is not only about building properties or about money. It is building trust. It is building value and leaving a lasting impact. And today conversation reflects that. And I am very happy to welcome today a very good friend of mine. We are not just talking about business. We are talking about values. We are talking about family. And also we are talking about faith. And we are basically talking about service because sometimes the most meaningful projects in life are not the ones that generate the highest returns, but the ones that make the greatest difference in life. Here, we are welcoming today Dr. Glassman. Welcome to join us here. We have the honor of speaking with him, someone whose journey reflects especially that idea that just described. Andrew is an investor and developer, and also is a visionary guy behind Lupita project and Casa Lupita project, created to provide specialized care with dignity and support for people with disabilities. But more than that, he is someone who believes that true wealth is found in serving others. Andrew, welcome. Welcome to Real Estate and Business.
Dolores, thank you very much. I'm honored to be able to speak to you about my mission and my passion at this particular stage in life. I'm also looking forward to a long collaboration as you recognize the advantages that we can provide to the underserved population of southern Mexico and this region. So thank you very much.
It is an honor for me not only to be here sitting next to you, but also every time that I speak with you, you are such an inspiration. Like we have a couple of days a meeting, and what I enjoy the most is not about the business. It's not about, of course, everything that is going to happen eventually with a project that probably we are doing together. We're exploring some other spheres in life in terms of business. But the most important aspect every time that I cross the door is the learning that I have from you. The such an inspirational life that you navigate, that now is an adventure in your life, and it is constantly something that you talk about with so much passion that every time that I cross the door and I face, my day by day, I feel like super inspired for you. So thank you very much to accept this invitation.
Those are very kind words. Thank you.
So let me start with a question. So everybody that is around you, well, you are very well known in the industry of real estate in Mexico, especially here in Oaxaca, in Huatulco. But they know who is the Dr. Glassman. You are a very well-respected businessman, and you are a reference in the business. But the ones that are close to you, they know your passion. They know that what drives your life is not basically just the result. It is taking care of the rest, but also before to join to that subject, I would like to speak a little bit more about your experience. How did you arrive to Mexico? How everything started here?
My life has been a little bit of a roller coaster. I've had several different businesses and several different interests. I was trained as an oral and maxillofacial surgeon, but with my desire to do things extreme, get my adrenaline going, I started to play horse polo, and unfortunately, I had an accident and crashed my hand. I was practicing in Beverly Hills, California, and I was the chief of maxillofacial surgery there. With that change, I had to look around for another way to continue my life. And where I had done passive real estate in the past, now I started to do more active real estate development, site construction, site evaluation, so forth and so on. So we had the opportunity, my wife and I, who is Mexican, by the way, and a gift in my life, to come to Huatulco on a vacation. I was only here for about 10 minutes coming from the airport with the palapas, and I was reminded of Maui when I was there in my youth. Coming along the road, I found that people having a respect for the environment. There's no trash. I took a look at the opportunities, and I said, Pili, why, my wife's name is Pilar, why don't we build a house in Huatulco to give you a foot in the country, because you were kind enough living in Mexico to come live with me. I had young children. So the first time we arrived, within moments, I was already looking, who can I call to find real estate and real estate opportunities? It opened my eyes to the way people do business here. With that first experience, fortunately, the house ended up in Architectural Digest Latin America, and the person who bought it is a very well-known singer and personality. So I arrived here, and little by little, I've done many projects. I've had over 80 transactions on buy and sell. But more important, I got to understand the soul of Mexico, and how to do business in Mexico is a reflection of how I had to learn growing up. My parents were immigrants. I'm first generation, and I lived in a community that had a little bit of tension, and learned that everything was about respect. So in Mexico, when you come to the transaction, when you come to interpersonal relationships, number one, if you give respect, you get respect.
Yes, totally agree. And now that I know the background of your wife being a Mexican, I think the first time that you start something here in Mexico, you have a little bit of chance before, being married with a Mexican. Your culture approach was definitely a lot better than some other investors that sometimes they don't have that opportunity. So how did you took that advantage in your favor to start to understand the cultural way to do business?
Well, I always try to explore and take the advice of people who are smarter than me. Here in Mexico, there are dichos, sayings for everything. One is, el diablo sabes más porque diablo, por viejo, pardon me, de porque diablo. The devil knows more for being old than for being the devil.
Yeah.
So I have 75 years, and we arrived here about 25 years ago. I already had experience, but most of my Spanish was self-taught as a surgeon at the county hospital. My wife, of course, is bilingual, so that was a real big help. Also, I got to meet some of the most interesting and informative people during the journey. So in the first day that I was looking at a lot, I happened to meet a very well-known fellow who asked what I was doing and then invited me to lunch. Later on, we became great friends, and we attended the change of the century together. That lunch started at 3 o'clock, and I said, excuse me, it's now 11 o'clock at night. It's time for me to go home. Mexican hospitality. It's a reflection of the value and the respect. I did some research, and I wanted to buy a lot. But how do you do a contract? How do you know when there's going to be a negotiation who you're dealing with? The fellow who I bought from is very, very well known. I don't need to mention his name. And he is in the furniture manufacture business. So when we had the negotiation and I had a question, he said, don't worry, just call my friend. He'll give me a reference. He's in the United States. He's in Los Angeles. His son is my friend.
The world is small.
The world is so incredibly small.
Oh, it's small.
So when I said, do you do business with Senor Morton? Oh, my father's done business with him for 30 years. His word is more important than a contract. If he tells you he's going to do something, cuenta con él. Count on him. So that was my first experience, because as you find out in Mexico, you can't rely on a judicial system which is going to support you if there is a conflict. It'll be 7 years before you get before the judge. So it's a whole lot better not to go down that. So we shook hands, we made the deal, and it's because of relationship and trust. And what I found out, there's another saying, which is straight hands, straight words, your reputation is everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, an advantage. My wife is Mexican, so we bought the property in her name. I didn't have to do a fideicomiso, which I found out later on. I didn't have to start a Mexican corporation, which I did later on, because as it grew from one home project, ultimately, Heido Soluciones and Bienes Raíces had various employees, and we literally did tens, if not close to 100 transactions, and that grew past the ability to have it under a personal name.
Yeah. And talking about reputation, like the day that you arrived here with Billy, you have already a lot of experience back, you know, not only in the health aspect, but also in the real estate world. So talking about reputation, how was for you to handle the fact that here you were starting from scratch, to build a name, to build something, to start people to believe on you, in your work, in your shaking hands, in your way, coming from a word that you have already something that talks on behalf of you?
You know, it goes back to respect. I didn't intend to build a reputation. The reputation came over time as the transactions that I had got bigger and bigger. I came here to build a private house so my wife's family could have the love of Mexico and the opportunity, she grew up in Guadalajara, to come visit. That is all about family and inclusion. So it only started off with one house. But when it came the new year in 2000.
Where that West House located?
It was in Residencia Conejos, and it is at the end of the line. It was Guillermo Cantu, his big house, and then I was a little house next to it. But they liked my design very much. So came New Year's Eve, and he had 150 guests. There was no space. And he said, you know, I know you're coming with your mom and dad. I was afraid of Y2K, and if the computers stop, what are they going to do? Well, you don't have to worry in Mexico because the computers aren't in the car, and the cars are going to run. So he said, I know you're there with your mom and dad, and you have some extra space. Can I rent a room? I said, no. No? ¿Por qué no? Why not? I said, well, you're my neighbor. I'll give you the room. You cannot give me money. And of course, when they had stay with us, it was an unbelievable experience. But reputation was, hey, Andy is more concerned with relationships than with money. And it grows a little by that, like a little seed ends up with a giant tree.
Yes, yes. And then you start to spend more and more time here. When was the day that you decide to expand or to provide your vision in terms of business-wise, and start to do something here after that happened?
I love all things Mexican. I love the soul. I love the climate. And because I had hurt my hand and I was no longer practicing day to day as a surgeon, I had the opportunity to make the decision to come here, spend 3 or 4 months at a time, go back home. But then my folks started to get older. And at that time, it became obvious that I couldn't spend so much time here if I was going to look after my mom and dad. They were in their 90s. So that was a bit of a transition, because if it was up to me, I'd never leave.
Exactly. Yeah. So that transition, that was easy for you?
Absolutely. I had the blessing of having my mom and dad give me value, give me an education, and there was no way that it was a hard decision to go take care of them versus taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And in particular, Pili, who was a daughter-in-love, not a daughter-in-law. And when we were together for those last couple of years, she took care of my mom. You couldn't believe. My dad died about 8 years before my mom and dad. They'd been married for 65 years, and everybody expected my mom was not going to last very long. Fortunately, with the attention she had, she lived another 8 years, and it was a blessing.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So she has good people around, I guess. Talking about your background, your family. For you, family is everything. Every time that I speak with you, you always speak about Pili, how important it is in your life. They always say that when you have a very, very good visionary, the visionary next to him is the wife, or the husband, But also you speak about your family, your kids, your grandkids. Now sharing about your dad, your mom. What type of level in your life family plays for you?
Family relationships are complex. They're not always linear. Sometimes things go up and sometimes things go down. I always strive to do the best I can. I live very close to my daughter. 10 minutes away in an emergency at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can be there. I can see my grandchildren regularly, but now they're a little older. My granddaughter's 17, and she's got much more of a social life. My son is doing real estate development here. He's very, very well known, doing much bigger projects. And as I slow down and change my focus, he is continuing the legacy of the name Glassman. And you would know his projects. They're multi-unit developments all throughout Huatulco.
Yeah. But talking about your mom and your dad and the values, do you have any specific experience that marked your life when you were a kid?
Yes, many. My dad was, throughout his life, my best friend. In the end of his last 10 or 12 years, he was always a partner. He always made the best decisions, what projects to get into. He had his concept of economics. His brain was like a computer. He could do the math faster than people could use their adding machine. My mom was very artistic. So I always knew, my dad said, you have a problem, I want to hear about it first from you. So there was one little time when I had a joyride with my friend who had borrowed his older brother's car, who was in the military at that time. Oh, we had a little crash. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The first thing that happened is I ran away. And my friend looked and said, "You're abandoning me now?" I ran to the young lady's house that we were going to visit a block away. I called my dad. He showed up in a minute, not to castigate me, but to support me. He showed up with a broom, swept all the glass, talked to the neighbor and said, "You know, what's it going to take? We don't want to ruin these kids' life." That was my dad.
Wow.
The first call was to him. And I can give you lots and lots of examples of that. So my relationship with my mom and dad, she was very artistic. And I got my artistic side and my ability to see vision three-dimensionally from her. And I got my business sense from him. So it was a great combination.
Yes, actually, you are very detail-orientated, you know? It's the way you design your interior design in your houses, the way you set the stuff. Well, you can say when Dr. Glassman is behind the scenes because the way you see details in every single or every particular project you are involved, even in Lupita projects.
From start to finish, I find the location. I create in my mind the vision of all of the steps necessary to get to completion. As a maxillofacial surgeon, whatever talent I had for vision was reinforced by understanding you go into a surgery, you got to be ready from beginning to end. And also, if there's a little problem, you need to figure out how to solve it. You don't get a second chance. So I had that opportunity, and it was reinforced. My basic talent was reinforced with an attention to detail. If you have facial reconstruction, it's only a half a millimeter between having your eyes on level versus not. There's no chance to do it a second time like the chance to do it the first time. So you have to really pay attention to details, and I love that. So first you go to the lot. Then you spend the night camping out on the lot. Where is the wind coming? Where are the odors going to come? I built a couple of ranches. Where are the barn going to be so that the wind comes, you're not going to necessarily smell the barn? So I sit there, I watch where the moon is, I build a little tower normally, and because it didn't have drones for me. So you climb the tower, you take a photo, you photo, where do you want the windows to look at where the ocean hits this rock? And that's where you design the house around the ambience.
Yeah, there is your inspirational moment, you know, when you do that. So before to start to speak about that subject, development and this type of things, I was asking you about your family, your values, connected in certain way, your Mexican experience, how you eventually start to do something here in Mexico, starting by your first second home with your wife in Mexico. I mean, I don't know if you have previously in Puerto Vallarta or in somewhere else. It was Huatulco, the first one?
I visited many, many different areas on vacations over the years before Pili. I like, as I said, I like the food. I like the soul. So I had been through most places in Mexico, and when I found this, I found something that was organized under the umbrella of Fonatur. Well, I hadn't visited Laredo. So after I came here, the next week I went to Laredo to see what the difference would be. I know that they helped develop Cancun. I was there when the Club Med was just opened, I think in 1976, yeah. More or less, when you only got water half of the day to take a shower. So I've been throughout Mexico, but I hadn't built anything here. So for me, I'd already been for almost 9 years retired from oral surgery. I'd gone through various development phases, and I rehabilitated an old building and became a medical office. And I built some commercial, and then I love to do houses. I like to flip houses because you go there and it's a little overgrown. Let's cut this, do that, and all of a sudden
could be a headache. You know, are you agree? You know, you never know what is behind. So you're gonna dig here and you're gonna discover something full of surprises, But yes, it's true. Flipping is fun.
Dolores, there is no problem in real estate. There is only solutions looking for the problem. And usually the first solution is not necessarily the best. You have to work all through the details. Oh yeah, this will be fast. This will be cheap. But maybe that's not the answer. Maybe you're going to take out a wall and you say, I'll move this wall here or there. And then you find out the house is 35 years old and the termites have eaten everything. Do you cover it up just because you're going to sell it tomorrow?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You have to deal with the problem.
Yeah. Handle it and then get a window of opportunity. Who knows,
And hopefully there's a little profit at the end of the day.
Exactly. So I was telling you this because, knowing your background, your consolidation before to come to Mexico, your first experience buying a house, all the process, your little niche of opportunity being married with a Mexican, that advantage, what really means for you, but also the day-to-day in order to run business or to start to do a first here in Mexico, could be just not that adaptation process, could be also the way things are done here or the way we as a Mexicans, we execute things here. And me a Mexican and also related in real estate and be married with a foreigner, I can also understand a little bit your experience. And in my experience, for example, the way probably an outsider, I am calling this way not to differentiate the way that is coming from US or Canada, just because of the culture is totally different, When you are a detail-oriented person, you have a way to do a procedure. Sometimes here, Mexicans, they don't understand those procedures. So for you, how has been all this adventure being with a Mexican thing, which, by the way, is a fantastic thing. You have such a beautiful stuff all the time. You say previously, I surround myself with smart people all the time. And I think you have a special talent to grab, the people that is going to run your business, your staff. But that sounds easy, but to execute the procedures, the staff to understand, to read your mind, to follow your vision, that is not that easy. How did you start this procedure? How did you start to discover that matching that sometimes is not easy in business?
With patience. I'm punctual. I adore our relationship because you're punctual. Come to Mexico and time is a little bit different. So to begin with, I would come at least once a month from Los Angeles during the construction period, meet with the general contractor. I had the great opportunity to start with Bernardo Sala, who is still my great friend to this day. I had a great relationship with the architect who understand that I've got my vision and let's build on that, but punctuality. So if I arrived from the airport at 10 o'clock, and by 11 o'clock, I was in line with a cola, a tail of maestros, the electrician, the plumber, they all want to know what Andy had to say. But, it was programmed. And if somebody was more than 10 minutes late and they came and said, I'm only late 10 minutes, I said, well, that's great. Go to the end of the line. Because there's another guy who's coming 10 minutes from now, and we're not going to have time, and I'm not going to abuse or disrespect the value of time. So pretty well, I got known. Be there or beware. You have to make that conscious decision.
Mexicans are not very on time.
Well,
that's part of the culture here.
Exactly. But everybody has an economic interest. They know if they have a bad result with Andy, that most of the English-speaking community might come looking for him for their opinion, and reputation is everything. And if a builder, a subcontractor has an issue, you have to be very clear and very conscious of how you go about. So I never say to somebody, I don't like your work. Hit the road. You just say, you know what? Thank you very much. I owe you X, but I cannot afford to continue working with you. Not because it's too much. It's just because I can't afford the way you're doing it. You don't put a guy back against the wall in Mexico because the reaction is going to be explosive. So you calmly let them know, you know what, thank you very much, but it's apparent we can't work together. I can't afford to continue to work with you. And it seemed to work. But most of the people knew that I was going to do an analysis of the value, adapt the construction project to make it as reasonable as possible. You know that I've been able to sell things very, very quickly, sometimes in construction, because of the reputation and the design. So having said that, I learned to maintain relationships on a handshake, not on a contract. Sure, you do a construction schedule. Sure, you get an estimate. And everything that I built has usually been within 3%. But, you know, you got to build in a little extra reserve for miscellaneous. But that has been my experience, personal, one-to-one.
Yes. There is any specific painful experience you have in Mexico dealing with construction? Especially construction could be a nice subject to speak about, you know, differences, cultural differences, the way they execute things.
Honestly, I can't, you know, I've had some disappointments in my life, changing from being a surgeon to a contractor or builder, having people answer the phone immediately versus call you back into, you know, it was a big change for me. But I can really tell you that the relationships that I have had and the experience I can have, I'm still here 25 years later, I think, yeah, maybe even more. And I can't identify one particular event that wasn't resolved comfortably. So if you're looking for a catastrophe, sorry, I can't provide that for you. It just hasn't happened.
Oh, well, that is beautiful. Well, you know, they say when you have pain in your life, in business, that is where you also grow in so many aspects. You know, you have this inflection point in your life that sometimes speaks loud to you, and then may you have some corrections.
Dolores, what do you get when you don't get paid for the work you do? Experience. So I've had a few experiences, but you know, nothing that wasn't, okay, I was building a house in 2008. Came 2009, I was selling houses with the understanding, more often than not, Dolores, you'd like to buy the house. Why don't you give me 50% down, 50% in the end of the year, and during that year, we'll live together. We'll share the house. The idea being most folks are not coming to be here full time. I don't have to be here in high season. I don't want to be here in high season. I want my friends to be able to reap as much income as they can. So what we would do is share the house, share the expenses, keep the employees so that the transition was made easier. So in 2008, I built Via Escondida over here in Bocana. It didn't sell. So I turned it into a bed and breakfast. And my very dear friend who you know, who just recently passed away, he was the general manager of a large hotel chain. And I gave him my business plan. And he said, Andy, I really respect what you're doing. This is not a business plan. What do you mean? That's all the details. Andy, you have 5 rooms. If you want to run a small boutique and hotel, you need 14. 5 rooms is not a business. It's a hobby. You know what? He was absolutely right. But 3 or 4 years later, the economy changed. And it's a good thing because I sold it for more, 4 years later. And you know what? You just ajustar, adaptar, y lograr. Adjust, adapt, and succeed. Life throws you a lot of turns. You just have to kind of move along with it.
Yeah, and you just mentioned something very interesting to me, and I would like to highlight that. Like sometimes you have in mind a model that is probably going to work financially in your mind. Like at that time, probably for you, really makes sense to have a beautiful beachfront house with very, very curated style because it's a magnificent piece of construction. You know, I love that house. The location is also very.
Oh, you're
good
talking
location.
about
Villa Escondida,
yep.
right? Very beautiful. And for you, that was, very good inspiration in life. And also you say, well, it's in front of the beach, it's like this beautiful design and 5 rooms. Like you didn't care about the hospitality aspect beside what Federico shared with you at that time. And you thought it was something fantastic, spectacular. And then you say, well, real estate asset plus hospitality with 5 rooms, that really makes sense. You rented out high season and that is it. Yeah. But then you have a very good friend related to the hospitality business. And then he was honest enough to say the truth to you.
And he was right.
And he was right. And sometimes you start business with no afraid. I don't know if you share that with me, but sometimes you just do the business because you are just exploring, you are just so passionate about what you do. And then probably, yes, that was a mistake at the beginning, but then you turn it on to make something else, a real estate transaction that was higher in principle, But if you were afraid to run a hospitality business because you didn't have 14 rooms or 20 rooms to be a boutique hotel, you will not jump.
What's the alternative?
Exactly. And that is what describes yourself. And also, like, we are going to make a higher subject out of that, but about Lupita project.
Well, he was right because he said, Andy, you think that you're going to fill this by the location, by the quality, and by word of mouth. You have to have 20% expectation in your costs for advertising. You don't have advertising because you can't afford advertising with so few rooms. So it's a hobby. But it wasn't a problem because even though it was negative cash flow, the object was to build it and sell it. So it took 4 or 5 years to realize the sale. But at the same time, the price went up and I recovered all of the costs and so forth and so on.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of real estate. It's like the location, very hard to fail, And it's you have a beautiful business core. Standardizing your operational day-to-day, creating an staff what we were discussing. Then you have a very good formula. And it's still, as you say, it was ending up being a very good investment.
You give respect, you get respect. In that first house, there were no other houses really in Residencia Conejos, very few. My wife has a very keen sense of smell, and the workers were doing their business in the jungle. The first thing I said is, we can't have that. Architect Gontran was working with me. First thing we have to do is put a bathroom. As soon as we begin the first spade, no, we don't. If you do a bathroom and a shower, everybody in the neighborhood is going to use it. Really a good thing. Really a good thing. If everybody has that same idea, and then later on the municipal requires a bathroom. It wasn't at that time. The food truck that comes. Usually it's a cousin, an aunt, something of your cabo, somebody who is going to put a little food station for waters, for eggs, for whatever. And at that time, there was trash. Every time they left, there was trash. I hate trash and litter. It's a disrespect to the environment. So I got a big barrel and I painted the outside and it said, another clean project of Glassman Management Corporation. Then pretty soon, all of my friends said, oh, what great advertising. I'm in construction, another clean project of Jorge Herrera, another clean project of Bernardo Saga, because little by little, they came to the conclusion. Now, at the same time, I went to the food truck operator. So you know what? These guys are working hard. They're going to hang a little bag of waters in the tree, and maybe they're going to forget it. You have no rent to pay to have this position, but I am going to insist that when you leave, the area around you is impeccable to my standard. And then we would say to the guys who are working, and some of my lots are very inclined, they're going to come to lunch. Manos vacío es mano de diablo. Empty hands are the devil hands. As you're coming up, I always want to know you're bringing whatever trash that's left on the ground. I never want to see you walking down to up with empty hands. There's always something to place in its order. So little by little, things change.
Yes, yes. And then you start something, but you never know how this is going to turn out, you know? You never know. It's amazing how the life sometimes give you beautiful surprises. And once you were here and having different aspects in your life aligned, business-wise, personal-wise, you know, in Mexico, then Bocana arrived to your life, you know. How was that discovery?
It was actually another friend of mine who we like to go to Bocana, which is the only wild beach. But when Fonatur first came, there were comuneros, and that's not pejorative. It's just because they were part of the common community since the revolution of 1913, the distribution of land to the communities, comunero. This land is ejido and has various restrictions. Well, Bocana was so rustic that you couldn't imagine it because everybody from the various beaches got a few lots here or there. They didn't have to build according to the master plan. So you know there's still some houses there that are with laminate roof. And then as I was on the beach, I met a ambulante, a guy who was selling jewelry and stuff. And I liked him very much. So, you know, I invited him to my home, which we later sold. Oh, you know, this is the first time I've ever been in the house of a rich güero. And I said, okay. He said, by the way, my uncle has a lot in Bocana, as well as Ejido. The stones are river rock, high tension wires, no great attention by Fonatur to those comunero community because they just wanted to, in those days, wipe their hands. So I said, well, I'll buy the lot, but it has to have escrituras, not hechos, because by that time I knew the difference. It has to do with title for anybody who doesn't know the difference. So the title is with escritura. And if I'm going to buy something and make an investment, maybe the second guy is not going to come if he doesn't have clear title. So I said, well, I'm not interested. He said, no. They have escrituras. I said, no, I don't think so. Not to the master plan. He said, yes. Here's the escritura. It was a donation by Fonatur to 100 lots. Some of them had 6 lots, 2 lots, 1 lot. But it all had escrituras, but it didn't originate from the normal sale because the comuneros didn't have to follow the master plan. If you take down their house because you bought it, then you have to follow the master plan. And sometimes people abuse that, and there's high density. I'm not excited about that. So anyways, now I had 100 signatures with all of the names of everybody who had a lot, which is in a document, not in the sales office of Fonatur, but in the agency of comuneros in Mexico City. Wow. I had information nobody else had. So I went to my friend, the ambulante, and I said, let's start buying them anonymously. $14,000, $18,000. At that time, for a lot that was 8 meters by 25 meters, or 200 square meters. Those lots are now selling for $200,000. Did I screw up? Well, no, I bought it for 15, and 4 years later, I sold it for 45. Okay, that's a 250% profit. I never look back. I'm happy that everybody is doing well. And I made a contract with CFE, and I paid to put down all of the high tension towers because they just looked ugly. Now, by that time, I had 45 lots in Bocana. There was 100, so at one time, I had 45% of every lot here. Divide the cost of putting the power down for 130,000 by 45, it's $3,000 a lot. But guess what? The price goes from 16 to 30 to 45. And some of them I sold for 60 or 70, I have to say.
Yeah.
I also had one really bad decision. That's one of the happiest decisions in my life. I was buying lots anonymously. I bought the lot of Via Escondida. Nobody wanted to buy that lot. It was $130,000 for that lot in Bocana. And then I bought another one, Mark and Lori's house, that's a little bit more modern.
Yeah.
I had the two lots. Mark had his bar mitzvah the same day as me. He's born October 18th. I'm born October 17th. We went to elementary school together. He's a surfer, and he tells me he's going to go to Costa Rica and build a house. He's in commercial real estate. I said, no. You got to come to Bocana. He said, well, I really liked it when I was there because I was his wedding planner at the Camino Real, and he got married with his feet in the sand. Mark, I'm going to sell you a lot right on the water. There's only 7 lots because most of the lots on the sand are for hotels. So because this was Bocana, they didn't see it. So he said, well, how much going to be? That one was a little less desirable for size, whatever. I had paid $100,000 for that, which was incredible. Everybody told me, you can't make it. No, as long as you buy a property in my recipe for 18 to 20% of the final value, you're going to do just fine. So if I had the vision that there was going to be a house finished on the beach worth $500,000, and it's worth now $2.5 million. So I said to Mark, I'm going to sell you this. He said, how much? I said, I paid $100,000. I want $100,000. I want 10 pesos and a beer. What? Yeah. You're my bro. To this day, we're still great friends. We talk all the time. He says, yeah, I don't know, but you think I'll be able to resell it if it doesn't quite work out with my wife? And I said, I'll tell you what, I guarantee at the end of 1 year, you don't like the lot, I will buy it back for $100,000, 20 pesos, and 2 beers. What do you think? Unfortunately, he kept the lot. Because right now I could be building, oh my God.
Yeah. Crazy, yeah.
Relationships, friendship, much more valuable than money. Money comes, money goes. Friendships, if you maintain them, and I probably tell you my 11 best friends were in a club together in high school, and unfortunately 2 of them have passed away. We see each other all the time. We all grew up in the same neighborhood, some in the better part of the neighborhood. That's okay.
Yeah.
Relationships.
Yeah. Totally agree. And then Bocana started to create their own chapter in Huatulco. And then
Well, that took a little bit of work.
Yeah.
Because
How many years?
Well, it took about 3 or 4 years to develop the reputation because what I did is people thought it's another frontier. It's Bocana. It's 25.
Yeah.
Bocana de Copalita. It's 20 minutes from downtown. There's no buses. That's a long way away. Well, every Sunday, everybody in town went to Pachutla to go to the Finca de los Vaqueros. So I talked to my friend, who's still my friend, Jaime Lamini, who is vaquero, And I said, I tell you what, instead of having to drive 240 topes with a little something to drink, why don't I build you something in Bocana? So I took 4 lots, I put them together, and he had for 5 years the Finca de los Vaqueros there. And pretty soon everybody went on Saturdays and Sundays. And then I took down the power lines, and then I put in the fountain, and then I cut every square in the guarnición, in the sidewalk, and I planted a palm tree. So all the palm trees are there because, you know, if you're going to do a development, do the infrastructure first. So when people saw there was infrastructure and I built my house and Mark and Lori built their house, and now there's the Finca de los Vaqueros, pretty soon, everybody wanted to be in Bocana. And that's how it grew.
Yeah, yeah. So what happened? How many years after that you start to create Lupita project?
In 2004, so that's 6 years after I came, I noticed that there was a really philanthropic organization called the Rotary. And the Rotarians have a project where they take used eyeglasses from all of the optometrists and ophthalmologists. They get donated, they go into a barrel, there's 4 different barrels, and it comes the eye doctor. American guy, doesn't speak any Spanish, pardon me. So Pili was the translator. We spent 2 days, there was a line of 400 people waiting to check the eyeglasses. The doctor says no glaucoma, no cataract, here's the vision chart, go to barrel number 1, 2, or 3. On the way home, I said, you know what? What's also throwaway and reusable in the United States? Well, my dad was at the end of his days, and he didn't want to die in a hospital. He wanted to die with his 22 children and grandchildren in the house, so I had to convert 2 rooms to be like a hospital. Hospital bed, poles, trays, wheelchairs, all of that. So I went to the owner of 2 different medical supply houses. One is called Wishing Well, and the other one is Pico Rents. And I said, what do you do with the wheelchair when the chrome delaminates or the leather's no good? How do you rent it? Well, we don't. What do you do? Well, we either give it away or throw it away. So I said, I tell you what, why don't you give it to me? And I will take it to Mexico, where it will have a second life with somebody who's going to really appreciate it. And I'll get you a carta de donación so that you will have a certified donation. I don't care what value you put on this wheelchair. It might be worth throwing away, but for us, it's gold. So as of today, we have donated over 170 manual wheelchairs, 16 electric wheelchairs, and 4 tilt-in-space wheelchairs for people in a vegetative space. And that's, from a little act of kindness, was the first seed to grow the Lupita project.
And why Lupita? What that name?
I think you may have heard this story, but after about a year, I developed a relationship with Jack Kell, who has Sherman Oaks Medical. He's an immigrant from Armenia and came 20 years ago as a young man. And now he's got 80 employees in a bunch of different stores. So I went there to solicit the wheelchair, and I told him what it was about. And he said, oh, that's great. We have our own foundation, and we'd be glad to donate wheelchairs. So after about a year, I was exclusive with him. I said, hey, you know what? I have Casa Via Escondida. Why don't you bring your whole team down for a week, and we will have a great time. And then at that time, the Presidente Municipal was very involved in what we were doing. And we had already started to build a little clinic. And they came down with 3 electric wheelchairs, 2 manual wheelchairs. LAX, Los Angeles Airport, we were racing the wheelchairs, one versus another. We didn't need the wheelchair, but it's a little white lie. The airline can't say, you can't travel with this 200-pound electric wheelchair. They can't ask the question. HIPAA. So you get there, you get pushed to the front of the line. It's the easiest thing to do. End result, they said, you know what? We had a celebration. There were 200 people there to applaud and say thank you. There, by this time, was 30 wheelchair people who were there. They said, bring us the most disabled person in the whole region, and we're going to fix her up with her or him. Came Lupita in a transport bus from the DEEF, down with a wheelchair. She's been in a vegetative state for 28 years. When she was a baby, she fell out of her bed in Mexico City, hit her head, cried. Mom put her back to sleep, and then she woke up 5 hours later with convulsions. She went to the doctor at the Hospital Popular, and they said, hey, sorry, your baby's going to die. Mom didn't accept that, so she went to the bruja, that's very well known, the witch, in Mexico City, and they said, not a problem. Take her to the ocean, put her underneath the sand with shade and water, and the calambres, the seizures, will go away. Sure enough, that's what happened. Then she ended up being in Piña Palmera, which is a very known rehabilitation center above Pachutla and Puerto Angel. One thing led to another. She's now in town. So she was made the most exceptional wheelchair you can imagine. Tilton Space, worth maybe $3,000, $4,000. Then her mom had her tied to the wall. When she had to go away, she would tie her because there was no crib. So we built her an adult crib so she could never hurt. Then a physical therapist friend of mine, a PhD who does disability services for the LA school district, 200,000 kids, said, you know what, she needs stimulation. What do you suggest? Give her a TV. Okay, so I bought a TV, a little one, for $100, and we installed it. And one thing led to another. Pretty soon, all the kids in the neighborhood are coming to watch cartoons with her. Before, she was isolated because the family doesn't want everybody to think there's a genetic problem, and if they marry into that family. Yes. So, you know, that's whatever it is. Now, people need to be visible. They need to be respected. They need to be included. And that's what's changed a lot in Huatulco as a legacy, to give the respect and the dignity of mobility and independence with our tagline, Juntos podemos, together we can. One finger, not worth very much. 5 fingers together has power. So when you involve the community, you involve sponsors. When you have summer camp where the kids are going to all of the different restaurants that were donated, by the way, by all of the community, deep sea fishing, catch the fish, and then Konichiwa is going to come and teach you how to make sushi. It was unbelievable. And it all starts with one thing. And I said, oh my God, I don't understand. If God is really kind, why didn't he just let her pass when she was 2 years? Whatever your concept of God is, it should be benevolent and kind and understanding. God, mom is now tied to that baby for 27 years. Now it's been 10 or 12 years since then. Mom passed away of COVID. Lupita got it, and she survived. Unbelievable, the strength. So then it occurred to me, maybe there was a plan. Because if she had not been presented to me, I wouldn't have the inspiration to create the Lupita Project as a foundation. Last year, we saw 530 patients, trips to Shriners Hospital for Children in Mexico, 14 kids every 3 months with 14 adults. We go to Shriners, we have telemedicine, which we developed as the exclusive rustic clinic. Now it's all over Mexico. They don't want to build more clinics. They want to do telemedicine. So we get there on Monday, after a long drive the night before to Mexico City. We're already pre-registered. We already saw the first doctor by telemedicine. We've already done the x-rays. We then see the second doctor, which is their protocol. Usually there's 3 weeks between each phase. We do in 1 week what normally would take 3 months. Where did that come from? Came from being introduced to Lupita, and that's why we named the foundation the Lupita Project, because I hired one one physical therapist. Actually, she was a massage therapist, not a regular therapist. And that's Carmen, who is now the co-founder. 14, 15 years later, we have hydrotherapy, water therapy, which is essential. Alliance with Shriners. I bring used prosthetic parts that I buy at night. They're refabricated. And last Saturday, we donated 5 prosthetic legs. The technician from Shriners flies in, and overnight, he does the whole thing. We also are treating equinovaro, which is known as club foot. It's endemic in Oaxaca. All the moms are tiny, so when the babies are growing in the bolsa, in the uterus, their feet are not straight. So now you have to do an operation. It's called Ponseti. We are now recognized nationally and internationally as the only rustic delivery system of Ponseti technique in all of Mexico.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful honor. I got the Laurel de Oro, the Golden Crown, along with 10 other people in Mexico City in the Palacio de Congreso, the Congress Hall. I, along with 10 other people, were recognized. It's not me. It's Juntos Podemos. It's Gerardo. It's Carmen. It's all of the people in the time collectively. I get the shout out. But the reality is, I live in another country, and this team seamlessly meets all of my standards and all of my points. Juntos Podemos.
And what is the future for Casa Lupita? For Lupita Project.
Well, you know what? A little slip of the tongue. What's the future for Casa Lupita? About 7 or 8 years ago, we outgrew the facilities at the DIF, and I built this house to be able to receive children in their rotation in a swimming pool that's accessible, with a floor that's not slippery, and with furnishings that make them feel comfortable when they come from the mountains. I can build a modern house, but that's a little bit cold. So I used all of the materials that are local. Many people chipped in to make this happen. So Casa Lupita is the officina. It's a central office. It's registered, and it's also a rehabilitation center. But oops, finances. Things are a little bit crazy. And we were doing 5 or 6 trips a day with 10 people in our van, drop them off, 9 o'clock, go back, pick them up at 10, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It was too expensive. So now this house is for sale. Why? It's a house. Surely it's one of my favorite projects because the soul of the house is the kids with the laughter in the swimming pool. Okay, it is what it is. So we built ourselves a new clinic downtown, and now we're seeing more people because they don't have to drive 20 minutes in a hot van. You just adapt, adjust, and succeed. What is the future? I am blessed with an unbelievable family. And when my days are done, I will have a will and a trust. 50% of the assets will go to my wife, the house and all those kind of things, 25% to my children and grandchildren, and 25% for the Lupita Project. And it will live for 50 years. What happens after 50 years, I can't tell you. I'm not going to be around.
Yeah. And now that you speak about Lupita Project, how the origin start, Lupita, the experience definitely that marked your life. In terms of what you do today for life, for living, what is in your heart from Lupita Project? What is the most authentic energy you get from Lupita Project?
One word: personal satisfaction. There are mores, which are the morals of the society. And then there's morals. Morals is your personal interpretation. Where does that come from? That comes from the Judeo-Christian ethic. And you will know that altruism is the personal decision to be selfless in behalf of people who are not as lucky or fortunate. Start off by being altruistic. That is an instinct. Good people the other night. We were in a wheelchair and out of the van and was struggling a little bit. We have a ramp, but there wasn't enough space. And a tourist walking by jumped in to help take down the wheelchair. Altruism. But then there's philanthropy. Philanthropy is the desire to make an investment in the well-being of somebody else. And in my opinion, and in the Judeo-Christian ethic, it is not a voluntary decision, it's an obligation. In the Torah, there are 600 references to tzedek or mitzvah. Mitzvah means giving a gift, and tzedek is the desire to do it. 600 references. In the Bible, if you go to Matthew, you go to Hebrews, or you go to Leviticus, there's always a passage that says, do unto others as you would want them to do to you. They say, when the stranger comes, welcome him. If he is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him water. This is an obligation to create mitzvah, good deeds. It's not voluntary. What do you get from philanthropy? Satisfaction. I have friends who volunteer some money and this and that. And there are other folks who have unlimited funds, billionaires. All they want is a bigger yacht. What kind of satisfaction do you get from a $1 billion yacht that you wouldn't get from building 10 $100 million hospitals and taking care of everybody, or giving wheelchairs to everybody who needs it? It's not the person who has the most that has my respect. It's the person who requires the least, and that which he requires, he doesn't require very much. You look at my car, 2004. I could buy a new car, $40,000. I'd rather have 40 people with a prosthetic leg. So what do I get out of it? Satisfaction and knowing I'm bringing honor to the name of my family.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. You know, you're such an inspiration, you know, is the way you see life, the way you give back, the way you serve people. And the first day I met Lupita Project, every single layer you have here, from not only the house, I am talking in general, the project, it states by what you just say. You know, is the fact of how you touch life in so many aspects. The other day we have breakfast with 2 kids from Lupita Project, you remember? And I was so touched by the way you encourage the kids, especially the kids that are the future of our society. Doesn't really matter what they are handling in their life.
I think you're talking about Andrea and Flora.
And
Flora had her little feet blown off in a fireworks accident. It's an accident. Nobody expected that she would ever be able to have a prosthetic, and she actually couldn't crawl or anything else because the bones were left with a sharp point, so you couldn't touch the bottom of her foot. Went to Shriners Hospital, they remodeled it. Now she has prosthetic legs, and now she's training to be a adaptive surf champion, hopefully to complete and represent Mexico in the Paralympics. You were involved with that discussion. Andrea was born, unfortunately, without a left arm, yes, below the shoulder, and she has a prosthetic, and she's competing. They're like sisters together. This has been for 8 or 9 years. So we're talking about those kids. But I think it's important also to mention that we're involved in the desire to create and advance the whole body, mind, and spirit. So my kids, I think of them as my kids. I know many, many, many of them by name, but there's many of them that I don't know. Education is the key to success anywhere in the world. My kids are not going to be able to run with the big dogs. They're not going to be a mesero, a waiter. They're not going to be this or that. But with education, they can be a concierge. They can work as a cashier. They can get a constructive life with education, which we support very much as an accountant, as attorney, or whatever the case may be. And they're also technical and inventive. Can you give me that little bag? Yeah. We're constantly changing. This is embroidery. We now have a group of 7 or 8 very disabled people who come and they do embroidery. And then it has a little price, 200 pesos, because each one is an artist. They get 100 pesos, and the other 100 pesos goes to pay for the taxis and transportation. It's the sense of satisfaction and well-being. So Lupita Project is multi-discipline for the dignity of mobility and independence in all kinds of ways.
Impacting the life of a kid, but also the life of a community, the life of a family, the life of this mom, that most of your kids are coming from communities, like very drastic communities in terms of economic background, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the way you impact their life, not only making their kids also available to access to a English class, mobility class, or whatever class you are gonna help, plus the medical aspect out of that. So people, like, they are looking after Lupita Project not only to have some donations, is also with the vision to help a community to grow. When you start here in Bocana, when you have the vision to put together your investors, your development idea, everything starts by a guy, local guy, that believe on you, that believe in somebody that opened the house of this güero, as you say, you know? And then who knows that at that year, a couple of years in between, you know, you were already structuring Lupita Project with that vision in mind, to give back to the community in a way that you are not only helping disability people, you are helping the community itself to involve themselves in something more ambitious, social-wise, you know? If that will be your family, your kids, your grandkids here next to us, what you would like them to understand or to get from you, from what you are doing here in Mexico with Lupita Project?
I would like them to know that they should follow the teachings and values that gave me my perspective and my life. You give respect, you get respect. And if they ask me, and they have, what should I do in my life? I told them, find something that you love to do, and you will never work again. This is not work for me. This is pleasure. Be yourself, be honorable, be respectful, and do something that you love. Pretty simple. Yeah. Money will follow. Money comes with attention to detail, with vision, with hard work. But money is not everything. It's a piece of paper. When the guy who's worth $800 billion dies, you think all that money is going to fit in his coffin? No. Money is not the goal. Satisfaction, respect, that's the legacy that I would like to see them have.
Okay. Well, Andrew, Dr. Glassman, thank you very much for sharing this magnificent life that you have, the vision of Lupita. Now that you share the future of Lupita Project, knowing that you have a new office, is already open in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's right behind Coliglia Chawe. Everybody knows where that is. And they also know where Corey's Pizza is. So we're just down from that point. Every Tuesday from 11 to 2, our doctor, Dr. Francisco, who's double certified in pediatric orthopedic, has an open door policy. However, everybody needs to pre-register so we know why they're there and so that we can allot a time. We don't tell everybody, come at 11 o'clock and sit and wait for 3 hours. It's run like my office in Beverly Hills was run. You give people respect and you give them opportunity. Yes, it's downtown, and
so if anybody needs help, they can knock at your door. So you have a staff already open there to welcome them to your Lupita project.
yes, we have a website. We have a telephone number. Eduardo Angel, well known because he is an angel. He does all of the management issues. Then we have a team of 4 physical therapists, and then we typically have 2 or 3 in servicio social who want to come and learn from the Lupita Project, Ponseti, prosthetics, trauma, all of those things. We have an unbelievable team. We have accountants in here and in the United States. In the U.S., you understand what a 5013C is. My daughter is a wills and trust specialist. And she introduced me the idea that if we have a formal foundation, then we can apply to get grants. We have 2 foundations that give us grant money. You know, we like to call it the blood. Every once in a while I get a call, we need more blood. Basically, that means we need more money.
Exactly.
We started with a budget of $400. Well, it was, at that time, the dollar was stronger. It was $200 a month with 1 therapist for Lupita. And now, depending on the year, our budget is between $140,000 and $180,000. I'm not a rich guy. I'm rich in all of the good things in life. I make my contribution, and we have 25 sponsors in the United States because we have a mirror foundation, which is certified to receive deductions, and you're helping us with that, so that the money that is collected in the United States, like the American Red Cross, can then send money to Haiti. The Lupita Project, the United States, collects the money and sends it down here to be used by the Lupita Project Mexico. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. In the meantime, while you set up all these donations in that way, there is a way business owner or somebody interested to do donations from Lupita Project, they can reach at you?
Yes, we have several websites. We've also been nationally published. You can find the website at Lupita Project, Lupita, no break, project.com. We also have a website for the house here, the Rehabilitation Center, and that's casalupita.net. That will direct you to our history and to our 19 different services that we provide. People find us in a plane ride. I met my international attorney sitting next to me. He heard about it. Now he does all the international law, Mauricio Leon de la Barra. Very, very, very qualified fellow. So yes, we welcome any donation. Unlike some of the foundations who spend 40% of their incomes on public relations, big dinners, so forth and so on, 100% of any donation goes directly to service. The information for donation would be found on lupitaproject.com. If you want to see more about triathlon, if you want to see that we had the first inclusive triathlon for disabled people, Ad Sport sponsored us, and for 2 years we had triathlon. We also had summer camp, 12 kids with 12 physical therapists, 24 hours a day, giving them the sense that they are not alone. It was an amazing experience. So you just look at Campamento Verano, which means summer camp, 2024 plus Huatulco, and you'll find that. We're on YouTube where it's easy to access, Casa Lupita plus Mocana, so forth and so on. I'm not very technical, but my team has organized things pretty well.
Thank you very much for sharing. And well, what is next for Dr. Glassman?
To continue what I'm doing and not focus anymore on business. I've had my own medical issues, and so I want to have, I'm not doing any real estate development at this time. That's torch has been passed. For me, to find peace and happiness and restore my physical health to the maximum I can.
Well, I think you will get it done, knowing you. Thank you very much for sharing again. Thank you very much for Lupita Project. On behalf of Mexicans around here, I want to thankful for such a beautiful chapter, to see kids. Once I have the opportunity to spend the beginning of the year with them, with their families, and just seeing them smiling beside the circumstances they have, that means everything. That means the whole result of your very, very, very beautiful gift to the society.
I feel your spirit, and I look forward to a long collaboration together. In whatever business ventures we end up doing together, I'll be passive. I'm no longer the active folk. But with the philanthropy, the door is open, and let's pass through it together. Juntos podemos.
Juntos podemos. Thank you very much, Andrew. Well, if you are interested to join the donation site of Lupita Project, we are going to provide beside the caption or the description of our podcast the information where you can get to know more information about Lupita Project, get more information about Casa Lupita. Don't forget that such an inspirational opportunity to be part of this investment for Casa Lupita, but also Lupita Project, you are not changing only the life of a kid. You are also contributing to the community here in the Oaxaca coast. Thank you very much for your time. And don't forget, if you really enjoyed this episode, this very, very special episode, don't forget to qualify yourself in our platform and put us 5 stars for us to arrive to more people. That help us to grow, but also to put this beautiful episode in the right hands. Thank you very much. See you next time.